Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. People of Reddit, what was the most stupid thing a teacher ever said? 7th grade, my science teacher had a baby, so we had a substitute for the last 8 weeks of school. It was supposed to be our space segment. The substitute ignored the lesson plan and taught us about astrology, but I got sent to the principal for arguing with her after she said Saturn was the largest thing in the universe. Somebody asked, "Did you mean the solar system?" And she said that meant the same thing. I then had the audacity to tell her that Saturn wasn't the largest thing in the solar system, the sun was way bigger. She doubled down and said it is the largest planet. I again tried to correct her that Jupiter was, in fact, much larger than Saturn. She lost her temper and told me to stop talking back to her and to go to the principal. The principal was actually reasonable when he asked why I was there. I told Ms. Johnson that Jupiter is bigger than Saturn. We had a different substitute the next day. I think I may have gotten that lady fired. I'd wager that with that attitude, she fired herself and got hired as a seer at flatearthers.com. I hear they are looking for someone new to fill that position. My 8th grade English teacher tried to convince me that the sun wasn't a star. That's so weird because my 8th grade English teacher tried to convince us we were all stars. Mine tried to teach me we're all rock stars and that we should get our show on. Wait, no, that was Smash Mouth. Hey now. God puts dinosaur bones in the ground to confuse scientists. And God probably made him a teacher to confuse his students. Bravo. He also slapped my hand for not writing in cursive. I assume Catholic school. 6th grade teacher asked me in front of the class if redheads have red hair on other parts of their body too. After that everyone called me far crotch. Now I've only recently had training in this, but I'm fairly certain that's sexual harassment. Whoa, slow down, they're critical thinking police. And well, do they? In college, I had a professor critique my writing and say this makes no sense. No man would abandon a woman they got pregnant. Oh, you sweet summer child. Not a teacher but another classmate. She didn't think a husband could ever rape his wife. I tried to explain to her yes that does happen, but I didn't push it. She has Asperger's and was very religious, so I think it's the religious part talking. Antisemitism ended in the 1300s. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? The Holocaust is a myth apparently. And the Spanish Inquisition. Martin Luther loved the Jews. For those that don't know, he lived on the 1500s. Ounces and grams are the same thing. And while 1 inch is not the same as 1 centimeter, they catch up at 1 meter, which is both 100 inches and 100 centimeters and 1 yard. This sounds like when Hobbes is trying to help Calvin with his homework. It really does. That's some science right there. A professor in college. Audiobooks are cheating, even if you have a disability. Duck you. Sir, I'm blind. You're a goddamn cheater is what you are. You're blind to ethics, apparently. Now read your book like an honest person. Audiobooks are cheating, even if you have a disability. Most universities have disability support offices and many countries have laws requiring them to accommodate you to the best of their ability. I would not want to be that professor if a formal complaint is filed. My religion teacher told us babies sin every time they cry because they are being selfish and want attention. I heard that before. It's a really lazy way of explaining no one is without sin. You better pull yourself up by your bootstraps, baby. You are cooking dinner or going to bed hungry. The current state of conservative religion in the US. What a weird way of saying that babies are born with the sin of their ancestors. A teacher called me a socialist because I said being born in America doesn't make you better. Hopefully this was at a private school. It was a private Christian school. You're just like that socialist Jesus. Well, I studied in Catholic school, so a lot of the sex ed that we got was basically condoms never work, pills never work, pearling out never works. If you have sex, you will get pregnant. I also had a math teacher that solved an equation that resulted in -0. That was a fun day. Same on the Catholic sex ed. Ours actually told us that natural family planning, the tempo method, or doing it, I think, shortly after the period, was the safest way and actually got approved. But in reality, it's pretty unreliable, especially for teenagers, and so it kinda seems like bad advice that would stick a lot of Catholic girls with babies that they'd then be forced to keep. It is called the rhythm method, LOL, and yet it is supposed to track your lady's ovulation so you can avoid those days, but since many women's reproductive cycles fluctuate depending on a number of circumstances, it isn't considered reliable, although it theoretically works. Also available to Catholics is the prayer method. Do it whenever you want and then pray that you aren't pregnant. I laughed out loud at the equation. Did he actually go oh she, or did he leave it there? I had French teacher sophomore year of high school try to convince the class that World War II didn't really happen. What, if I have understood that correctly, they are denying a war in which their own country was taken over? What is wrong with some people? Not all French teachers are born in France. What did they claim happened instead? I was in a yearly CPR class that an EMT was teaching. When it came to hands-on training, I was pumping the dummy's chest hard enough for it to click. The EMT told me I was breaking the dummy. You hear that click? It's breaking. He argued with all the healthcare providers in the class, who explained the click is there to show you how hard you actually have to pump someone's chest. He had supposedly been an EMT for 30 years. Nothing worse than an instructor who has been doing something for 20, 30 years, likely been doing it wrong. I wonder how many people they kill, likely to have forgot most of what he originally learned. I had a weather and climate teacher in college who said as an off-the-cuff comment that she didn't believe in climate change because weathermen can't predict the weather more than a few days in advance. This was, of course, the day after she told us that weather and climate were different, and that anyone who compares the two have no idea what they're talking about. I once had a professor go on a 20-minute rant about how qualified he was to teach the class right before the final exam. Qualified, however, does not equal competent. The man was the worst instructor I've ever had, and that's coming from someone that attended the rural Mississippi public schools in the 80s. Pro tip: if you enter a new class and the teacher starts giving their qualifications and says if you fail, that's on you. Leave and drop the class. If it's not required for your major and you can't take it with anyone else, you will have a huge uphill battle. In my case, it was a teacher with an accent so heavy she might as well have been speaking a foreign language. This rant was in response to most of the class going to the dean about the complete failure of education after learning nothing in the previous 14 weeks. Unfortunately, he was the only professor for the class and it was a prerequisite for basically everything. Fortunately for most of us, the prof for the 200 level class was amazing and fit everything we should have learned in the first class with the whole curriculum of that class as well, without rushing or overloading everyone. My friend's friend is a teacher. She heard that I was an engineer, so she sent me a really basic math trig problem because she wanted to know how to teach the material. First off, I was ducking outrage that a teacher didn't know this basic shit. So then I show her the math for how to solve for x. I write up a whole page explaining the logic math in very simple terms, so that she'd have a handout that she could give the kids. She says that looks complicated. I'm just going to tell them to plug in each possible answer on the multiple choice to see which one is right. I'm still ducking mad about this. The bell doesn't dismiss you. I do. Oh. And also, the bell isn't for you. It's for me. Those teachers are so annoying. Why are you packing up? We still have 2 minutes, because my next class is on the other side of the school and I don't want to have to run. Yep, and then, as punishment, you'll stay on this 5 meters INUT break to finish the lesson, because duck you. Seriously, these teachers are the worst. I had a 7th grade teacher who always would get mad if you were packing up before the beep rang. You could only pack up once the bell rang, while my next class was across the school. Then, sometimes we would be held for a minute to finish a lesson they knew wouldn't be done on time. 4th grade, I asked the teacher how to spell coyote. He said look it up. I said I can't if I DK how to spell it. He then said start with sigh. I know this too well. My parents figured that making me look up every word I couldn't spell would be a great idea. Problem is I learned to read by doing hooked on phonics and I could never figure out the 2nd and 3rd letters. Good luck looking up a word if you only know the first letter. I still get salty about this and I'm 35. I'm actually a decent speller now, but it's a no thanks to this. Brilliance at its finest. It was my 9th grade science teacher, who is pretty nice in general. It happened right after the unit test for chemistry, and I was excited to see my results because I had been getting A's through the whole unit. Everyone was sitting in the class, talking with friends because the teacher was late, 10ish minutes into class, and she comes in. Most people thought it would be a nice day, until she announced, "I have your results for the test, and I am very disappointed in all of you." We were all confused, and were looking up at her to see what she would say next. She followed up with at least half of the class failed, with the highest mark being a 2+, about a 54. Now, I was worried, because I obviously didn't want to have a big dent in my grade. Now one student decided to speak up, and asked her if most of us failed. "Isn't it your fault for not teaching us?" In which the teacher replied with, "No, it's your study habits." I ended up passing the class in the end. But these things made it so half of the class had to redo grade 9 science. I have the teacher again this year, and hope nothing like this will happen again. I wish more people would realize that sometimes, when a student fails or whatever, it is the teacher's fault. But even if you bring it up to the school, a lot of times they defend them saying stuff like, "But they've worked here for X years and kids usually don't have a problem passing them. It must be the kid that has a problem." They never want to take the blame. That's absolutely ridiculous. It happened just now in my class. Our professor dumped a 10+ hour homework assignment on us during midterms. Most homework assignments in this class are designed to be 2-hour time commitments max. So obviously today all the students are pissed and sleep deprived from getting it done last night. The professor started getting mad at us for struggling so much and started getting onto the class for daring to send her emails yesterday. Apparently a party she was attending out of town was much more important than her job. I had a British literature teacher assign us 3 huge books as a reading assignment, and then quizzed us about subtle references made in the books. Not the actual subject matter, but mere allusions made. Only 2 days later, I wrote "Stop being a sadistic tart" on my quiz and turned it in. She wrote "See me after class about your attempts at humor and give it a 0. I came in the next class ready to throw down, and she basically broke down to the class and admitted that there was no way we could possibly process that much information in 2 days, and apologized to us. Stop being a sadistic tart is a legendary insult. May I please use that someday against enemies? That she would accept her daughter being gay but wouldn't accept if she wanted to marry a woman. I almost got expelled that day. I'd accept it, but not really is what she means. Had a teacher that claimed the Holocaust never happened. She didn't come back the next year. Did the air conditioner run out of battery? My IT teacher. He's living in 2030. Math teacher said there are no negative numbers. A social studies teacher claimed that slavery wasn't that bad. She was surprised that they have phones in India, and compared racial discrimination to sibling rivalry. Sibling rivalry can get pretty ducking brutal, so I guess it can be compared. Ottoman sibling rivalry seems like a fair comparison. This one hits close to home. I got a lot of misinformation about slavery. The American Civil War was not about slavery, but states' rights. Had there not been a war, slavery would have naturally dissipated, because it was actually more expensive than paying people. We should honor the Confederate soldier for their bravery and desire for freedom. Texas succeeded from Mexico because they were abusive. Definitely not because Mexico was going to outlaw slavery. I'm not helping you with that. Other time, my teacher dropped a pen and told someone to pick it up. About how I won't have a calculator wherever I go. Look at me now. I got the internet everywhere. Teachers also used to say that everyone needs to know cursive. I write in this cursive print hybrid now. During a 3rd grade earthquake drill, my teacher told us to go under our desks, get into the fetal position and fold our fingers and place them behind our heads. She said if anything happens to our fingers it would be fine because they can grow back. She really thought they will do that, or? That sounds like a joke to me. Like the drill instructors telling the airborne candidates to grab a fistful of grass if their chutes didn't deploy because it's the bounce that kills you. Black holes are just a mathematical concept, but they don't exist in reality. It was over 10 years ago though, so yep, this was coming from a physics teacher. Honestly, black holes are such a scary thing, and the fact that they're sharing the universe with us is terrifying. I wish they weren't real too, haha. They are as scary as interesting. Theoretically, if you were to fall into a supermassive black hole, you wouldn't get spaghettified right away. In theory, a supermassive black hole has enough traveling time to the event horizon that you, supposedly, would be able to stay alive and not feel the weight of gravity enough to kill you for a few lifetimes. If we're to believe that gravity is the only thing that could kill you, I believe there would be a lot more dangerous things than only gravity. Also, this is implying that you thrust into it, avoiding all the super hot gases that are rotating along the object. Even then, in theory, all of the galaxies have a supermassive black hole at their core, which I'm not sure but could contribute to keeping it all together. So in a way, something that has the potential to destroy also has the potential to keep everything in order for life to flourish. Also, I believe black holes are not always inactive in a firing my laser mode. Don't quote me on any of this. I like to watch videos about it and try to explain it using common sense, which I'm pretty sure it's not even remotely accurate to scientific point of view. Then again, those videos give you information which you can understand as a non-scientist and share some interesting facts. You'd need to travel 26.000 years at light speed in order to reach it, so it's pretty far away. Cheers. That I wouldn't go to college since my math grade was low. I made a 67. In 6th grade, I have a bachelor degree in Russian and Eastern languages. I had dyscalculia. What a dumbass. If you put your mind to it, you can do anything. Join our community Discord, link in description. In an undergraduate level politics class, taught by a lobbyist, you know, those things, the things that were in place before the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, no, that wasn't until the Civil War. I am constantly amazed at the amount of adults in America who have no idea what the Articles of Confederation is. Science teacher saying that green eyes don't exist, only blue and brown. I heard a history teacher say that ISIS did 9/11. She is one ticked off Egyptian god to have done that. I can't read what she's written because it was done on a computer. My substitute US history teacher told the class and insisted butter wasn't invented until World War II. They're probably thinking of margarine, which largely arose during World War II due to its long shelf life and stability at room temperature. People who don't have science-related jobs are usually less successful in life. That was said by my math teacher in grade 11. Not really stupid, but it made me chuckle. My chemistry professor was Japanese, and he pronounced electron as erectron every single time. I kept picturing cars transforming into dildos. Everything my edit professor ever said, bruh couldn't even pronounce plagiarize, so it made me think he plagiarized his own PowerPoint. World War II started because of the Holocaust, and the Nile River is located in South America. The world is 6,000 years old, and evolution is a theory in the exact same way that God creating the earth in 6 days that may or may not have been 24-hour days is also a theory. Baptist school switched to public the following year. My 63-year-old physical education teacher once told me that my physical condition is so poor I'll probably die before she does. I was 12. Creepy. Oh, and another one. One day you'll find a wife and have kids. PSSSSH. Yep, right. That one really hits close to home. My old 9th grade math teacher spent the first day telling people how dumb they were. Talked about how if we didn't pay attention or if we didn't do homework, we would fail and she wouldn't care. Well, day 2 came around and we actually started to learn real stuff. She wrote a large equation on the board right when the bell rang. I don't remember exactly what it was, but in the end the answer was x equals 3.5 inches and the teacher said x equals 7. After a few minutes, the teacher asks for an answer and I raise my hand and say 3.5 inches. The teacher grinned, then tried to correct me. I told her I did my work. I can show you. I went up to the board and the teacher really thought I was going to embarrass myself. I spent the next 2 minutes going over what I did, why I did it, and what I got. The answer came out to my amazement. 3.5 The class started laughing at the teacher for telling me how wrong my answer was and how she was right. A teacher in my primary school believed that sharks are mammals because she saw some documentary where sharks gave birth to living baby sharks. I bet her €1 that she's wrong. She's not a science teacher anymore, but is still teaching other stuff. Sorry for bad English. It's not my first language. Was out of school for 3 weeks due to a severe case of pneumonia. First day back, teacher announced in front of the whole class, "You were gone long enough to have a sex change." I was in 6th grade. I didn't know there was a difference between fire and heat. Everyone knows brown cows make chocolate milk. My high school English teacher. I actually had points taken off my essay for incorrect information. One time my driver's ed teacher asked me, "I'm a Muslim, my opinion of ISIS." You know, that might have led to a very interesting discussion if handled properly in a civics, geography, or even world history class. Driver's ed, not so much. Not a stupid thing, but a stupid way of teaching something. My teacher used to teach math the hard way first, then teach us the easy way, ultimately confusing everyone. I still have no clue how people passed that class. Eating is a sin. I think he actually meant eating to excess gluttony, but it was a rather heated class argument and it didn't come across that way. The word present can't in any reality or context be synonymous with gift. When Kung Fu Panda came out, someone wrote Uguay's quote on the board. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called present. Our English teacher was legitimately confused by its meaning. Present equals gift? That can't be right. I felt like I was trying to explain what the color green was to a blind alien. Never knew which of these two was the dumbest. The Wall of China is a mile tall. There were 1 million soldiers per Roman legion. My high school math teacher decided to boost the grades of those under a certain score. This obviously ended up giving those people higher grades than some of the people who scored above that score. When I explained this to her, she didn't understand what I was saying, which is not exactly the best look for a math teacher. I wasn't there, but apparently my friend's teacher was teaching about the menstrual cycle and he said that it doesn't hurt and can't possibly, and after being told by my friend that it did, he refused to believe it. Oh. And I had a teacher compare me to Trump just because I'm American. I'm a queer socialist mixed race immigrant, which seems like the antithesis of Trump. When I was in 6th grade, my science teacher told us that if you breathe through your mouth, you'll get lung cancer. That messed me up because I was a mouth breather at the time. I told my mom the same thing, and she gave me the dumbest look ever and said, "Who told you that?" I explained my science teacher did, and she just facepalmed and told me it isn't true. I'm 19 today and I'm still not 100% positive if that's true or not, but needless to say I still get a little anxiety if I accidentally breathe through my mouth. Stand straight in a circle. Gotta have been the priest that held our religion's class. Input stupid Christian nonsense. Had a priest teach my religions of the world class. Hands down the most open-minded human I have ever met. I was pretty shocked. I had a teacher in 7th grade who said that Arnold Schwarzenegger's accent was the result of steroid abuse. My design and technology teacher said that she would put a student's face against a band facer. I wonder what she is doing now. I had a teacher tell my class that plants breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, and when I told my dad what I had learned that day, he decided that at the next parent-teacher conference, he would correct her. Fast forward 4, maybe 5 years, a family friend's kid gets the same teacher. Apparently now, on the first day of class, she informs her students that she is the one with the teaching degree. So she's right and no one is allowed to correct her. I don't know if others also corrected her or just my dad, but she didn't say that to my class, so we think she says it because of him. I don't see the problem. Maybe the word breathe isn't technically correct since plants do respirate, but it's a close enough analogy that I don't see the harm. Sometimes teachers use words that aren't technically correct but convey the idea much better than using the precise ones. By using the energy of sunlight, plants can convert carbon dioxide and water into carbohydrates and oxygen in a process called photosynthesis. As photosynthesis requires sunlight, This process only happens during the day. We often like to think of this as plants breathing in carbon dioxide and breathing out oxygen. However, the process is not exactly this simple. Even here they use the phrase "your teacher did," only with a small blurb that it's not technically correct, but still says it's an accurate description of the idea. And when teaching younger kids, what's important is understanding the idea. Too long didn't read. Precision for the sake of precision can go duck itself. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.